I've been hiding for most of my life, and one way or another, I have been hiding. And maybe you have too. Maybe you've had a fear of speaking up or speaking your deepest truth. And if that's you, that's really been me for my whole life. So maybe my story will help you. And it starts with last night, what my subconscious did. And so this dream that I had, wow, I'm still like sitting and processing that dream because it was just so disturbing. Like when I had the dream, I was really like, I was walking in this city, in this foreign city. It was a hill town. It reminded me of Italy, but not nearly as nice. It was much more like industrial and just kind of, there was a heavy feeling on it. And in that town, I was at a point where I could walk down one way that was like very traffic laden and there were all these tunnels and it wasn't even clear that there was a way to walk safely there, or sort of up the hill on these sidewalks that wasn't grassy or anything. It was all like buildings and stuff, but there's a way to walk up. But I like saw somebody kind of hanging out up the hill and I was like, oh, I don't know, that person doesn't, I'm not sure what's going to happen when I walk past that person. But I decided, well, there only the two ways. So I need to walk up the hill, dream logic, right? So I start walking up the hill and I, as I get closer to this person, this young guy who is sitting there, he sees me and he comes over to like accost me or do something negative to me. I'm not sure what it was. I don't remember anything. Like he didn't stab me or anything, but he was doing something negative. And then I remember like pulling out, like out of nowhere, again, dream logic, some kind of spiky thing, like maybe a pen or something, and literally stabbing him in one eye and then watching like there was no blood, but it was like a substance came out. So I stabbed him in one eye, substance came out. That stopped him from doing whatever he was doing. And then that wasn't enough. I stabbed him in the other eye. Whoa. Like, and I woke up pretty quickly after that. And I was like, this is the most disturbing dream I've had in a long time. Like, I've had dreams where bad things have happened to me, but I think this is almost more disturbing. Like, would I really do that to somebody? Like, seriously? Like, what is wrong with me such that I was like stabbing this guy in the eyes? And why the eyes? Like, that was the real question. Why the eyes? Well, so the answer I got later in an insight I had while I was in the shower was that this this was about being seen and not wanting to be seen, like being afraid of being seen and the fear that if I am seen, something bad is going to happen. And this stabbing of this guy was so that I wouldn't have to be seen, so he could no longer see me and the fear would go away. But seriously, not worth it. I'm telling you, like a dream like that. Oh man, I'm just glad it wasn't real life. Um, I would be traumatized forever. I really get this idea of in like people who are in wars and shoot people, like how they can be traumatized afterwards. Like if I just, well, just if I stabbed somebody in a dream and then feel traumatized from that, wow, I can't imagine if it was in real life. Anyway, so this is important. And when I was sitting in the shower, I'm like, okay, so seriously, like, what is this about? And then here's where I tuned into my higher guidance. I have been in communication. I have been receiving downloads with my guide team and others for quite some time now. And I kept it super on the down low, but I'm tired of that. I'm tired of hiding that because it's super useful. And I just can't believe that more people are so afraid of that, of actually receiving that kind of guidance. And I'm really sad that I didn't tune into it earlier. So anyway, I was in a shower and actually I find that the water of the shower helps with that, like helps actually tune in even more easily. And so I did. So I tuned in and I asked my own guides, I was like, what was this? Like, what's the deal here? Like, why this? Why now? Why so extreme? And they're like, let's bring in these other folks to answer this question. And so they bring in the Arcturian Council. And then, what I mean by bring in is literally like introducing them verbally, but also feeling an energy shift and then receiving sort of a different energy. In a way, it's a different voice. And the Arcturians spoke up to this point. Now, before I go into the details of what they said, I just want to introduce this. In case you've not heard of Arcturians and you think this is crazy, that's fine. I'm sharing my truth. So you don't, whatever. But I think it's really beneficial to learn about this stuff. And I wish I had learned about it earlier and actually acknowledged it, because in 2015, I had what's called an Akashic records reading. This is a practice of going into a person's soul record and looking at where did their soul originate and what is it constructed of and what are some of the karmic patterns that are present there. And at the time, I thought it all sounded so weird. Like I had just left my faculty job as a scientist a few years before. I was still working with scientists. I still do. And I was super like almost ashamed of doing this. And that says something. Like, to be ashamed of just doing something out of curiosity, it's really sad that our system gives us shame about just being curious. But anyway, I didn't let the shame stop me. I got an Akashic records reading, and there's plenty more to say about that separately another time. But one of the many things that resonated was I was told my soul group is Arcturian, which is associated with the star system Arcturus. And I had no idea what that meant. I was like, what? So anyway, I went and looked it up and found some stuff and found that there are people who like channel the Arcturians. And there was a lot of stuff online, a lot of stuff talking about Arcturians being very advanced beings that were once physical, and then they ascended to like a higher spiritual plane. And so now when they quote incarnate, their bodies are just energy bodies. They don't have physical bodies like we do. Which, by the way, for all those people wondering, like, UFOs, how do they do this stuff they do? Or UAPs, how do they appear and disappear? Like, if you actually believe some of the stuff that's been released, I'm not sure it's all real stuff, but maybe some of it is. Anyway, if some aliens are like actually made of energy in energy bodies, that would explain a lot about how they do what they do, how they come in and out. In fact, well, anyway, I won't go off on too much more of a tangent about that. So anyway, I was told I'm Arcturian. My soul is Arcturian. And while that was weird and intellectually, I had no idea what it meant. Emotionally, that had a deep connection for me. I felt a huge sense of relief to, like, in a sense, learn that, oh, this is why I'm so effing different. I mean, seriously, I'm fucking different. I've never felt like I fit in, like I think normally, like I do things normally like other human beings do. I've always seen things from a different perspective than so many other people. I mean, occasionally I'd connect with other people who kind of have this different perspective like I do, but it just often didn't make sense to me. I'm like, what is going on here on this planet? Why are people doing this stuff? This is effing crazy. And you might say, a lot of us say that, but how do you know you're not a starseed? I don't know. Anyway, to me, it was a super satisfying explanation. And I felt like I had a very strong connection to Arcturus. I even had like a visual journey. And I'm not super visual in my relationship with all of this stuff, but I actually had a visual journey onto the planet Arcturus, and that was a whole interesting thing. So anyway, back to our thing today. So then this Arcturian council steps in, and I literally only first heard of them like a month ago. And it turns out, I mean, that was directly when they stepped in, and another thing that I was asking for guidance on. I knew Arcturians were around because I'm supposedly this Arcturian soul incarnated in this body. And so I knew they were around, but I didn't know there was like a council. So they stepped in a month ago, and then just the other day, on a video I was watching from somebody else, they were literally talking about a 5-volume book series that was channeled by the Arcturian, or via the Arcturian Council spoke to this person who wrote a 5-volume series about it. I have not read that. I hadn't heard of it until just the other day, but it's an interesting confirmation that I first got that mentally and then heard of this book series. Anyway, so the Arcturian Council, they said, right now is a really important time for Arcturian starseeds. Okay, there's another one of those terms that if you haven't heard the term starseed, it sounds a little bit kind of crazy. But the idea behind starseeds, as I've learned, is that there are souls that incarnate on Earth and then reincarnate again and again on Earth. And so because they originate here and spend many lifetimes here, they really get acclimatized to the way Earth operates, even as bizarre as it sometimes is. And those are called Earth souls. But there are others who incarnate first and spend a lot of their incarnation time on other planets. So it's a little bit like being born in the US and then going over to Europe and them saying, why do you do things that way? Like, what are you doing? It's the same idea that incarnating in another place, you get different patterns, different ingrained sort of mental habits. And even though when we come into these bodies, we don't have a memory of these past incarnations, we do have thinking patterns that come with us. And so, again, this really explained a lot. And the idea behind starseeds is that starseeds are then, they come on a sort of mission sometimes, and sometimes it's just to observe or experience, but sometimes it's to do something more. And they originated in another place, but then they come here to Earth for some purpose or some reason. And I've been told that I have some purpose and some reason, and it has to do with this particular time in history of helping humanity forward through the difficulty and to move to a new sort of level of being. And which is why I might seem optimistic when everybody else is so pessimistic right now. I've actually gotten more optimistic over the last year. Maybe sometimes I wonder if I'm delusional, but every time that I check in and really do some deep thinking and writing about it, I conclude that it's probably not delusional. There's a lot of data and a lot of evidence. But anyway, enough digression. So I get this message from the Arcturian Council to this starseed, Arcturian, in this body saying, Arcturians have a problem, essentially. Arcturian starseeds, other people like me and me, a problem of hiding. A problem that, yes, we incarnated here and have lived reasonably normal lives here. And in order to do so, we really tried to fit in, which means hiding really how different we are, how, like, I mean, it's not like I literally have like more fingers or something, but like different in the way we think and approach life so often. And that we are different, and we've hidden that difference because it just didn't work well in our system here. Like, I couldn't have gotten a graduate degree, a PhD, or become a tenured professor if I was being too odd and too different and talking about whatever, honestly about how I see things, which is, I think, a lot of the way that academic system works is kind of, the word borked comes to mind. Who knows why? Hopefully that's not a super offensive term. Anyway, it's kind of borked with, okay, so that system is kind of, and that's why I eventually left it. I just couldn't, like, it was too much mental friction. Yes, I was successful within the system, but I was like, this is crazy. This is absolutely effing crazy. And then I thought, okay, well, it'll be better somewhere else. And that's a whole other story too. So we hid in order to fit in and get along and be a part of whatever it was. And now things are changing. Now, especially for those of us here with some kind of purpose or some kind of mission, which is always like self-defined, like at a deeper level. Maybe we don't remember it, but for me, it's a deeper thing that my core consciousness, my higher self, my soul, whatever you want to call that essence, agreed to come here and work during this time. And this is the first like literal specific mission, which is to release this energy of hiding that myself and so many other people have been doing. And you don't have to be a starseed to be somebody who could benefit from this message, because how many of us are just hiding? Whether you believe in starseeds, whether you are a starseed, how many of us are hiding just to play it safe, just to get along, just to be a part of these systems? Well, the damn systems are crumbling, and maybe it's about time that in some ways the systems crumble. Yes, it could be a painful thing for some people, depending on how you relate to change, how you deal with change. And believe me, I've gone through a lot of angst and worry and frustration. But at the end of the day, I have finally come to a point of accepting and saying, okay, we do need change. And apparently I'm a part of it. So again, this first thing is to speak up, to show yourself, to stop hiding, whether you're a starseed, whether you relate with that idea or not. If you have a message, if you have something to say, if you look at what's going on in the world and you are holding back your voice, let's say you are around people who believe differently than you do, and they really are, beating the drum of certain things and saying, yeah, 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 rah, 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 go, 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 whatever to certain things. Is it time for you to speak up and say, no? Like, I'm not going to argue with you, but I'm also not going to hide. I'm not going to close down my voice. I'm not going to hold this inside anymore and not speak up. It is time to speak up, because things are messed up right now. I will acknowledge that. I think it's on the way to something better. But if we don't first acknowledge that it's messed up and it needs fixing, then what are we going to do? Just like let things degenerate and collapse into utter chaos? I mean, it's already kind of chaos, right? No, let's not do that. The world needs your voice. The world needs my voice. So I'm coming on here in a way that I have never done it before, literally with this energy of just like, I'm going to share who I am and share my truth, whether people like it or not. And I'm sure there could be comments. There could be people who don't like it. Whatever. It happens. But it is time to share. It is time to speak out and give a different perspective, because the current perspectives that have been held by the mass of society are not working. It is broken. And this is not a political issue. This is not one side of politics or the other or whatever. It's not an us versus them. It is broken for everyone. And we must change. And those of us who are ready to speak up to how broken it is and how we see it could be better, it's time to come out and speak up. We were all taught to stay small, to hide the real stuff, to keep quiet. That is, unless you are born into some kind of elite. And that architecture was built deliberately to keep us down, and it is time to walk out of it. I'm done being afraid to say what's true, and maybe you are too. Maybe now is when that changes. And I'm here to be the change, not to just talk about it. I'll see you next time.